What's going on, guys? Welcome back to podcast 129 for our week 2 preview and predictions. My name is Hunter Waldrop. That is Jake Stinchcomb to my right and Tyler Vaughn right below us. Fellas, how y'all doing this evening?
Good, man. Getting close to week 2 starting up. No Thursday games this week, but we got the NFL. Philadelphia kicks off the NFL season against Dallas, so excited for that. I know we talk about college football, but we're NFL ball watchers too. So football's all the way back this week. I know last week, week 1, we've had week 0, we've had week 1. Week 1 was great, 5 days of football, but now we are all the way back. The NFL's back. You got prime time on Thursday night. You're going to have your mid-tier college games on Friday night. Saturday is all college football. NFL Sunday, and then Monday Night Football. Football season, we're all the way back. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're officially, like you said, all the way freaking back. Football is now in full swing. So I'm looking forward to a great week. Looking forward to having a nice Sunday full of football, not just a couple of games, but all around the board. So complete weekend coming up.
Yeah, we're back, and it feels great to be back. And, looking ahead at the week 2 slate, it's like, gosh, it's like we got Michigan, Oklahoma, but outside of that, And guys, whenever you see a slate like that, something crazy 9 times out of 10 happens, stuff you don't expect to see. So never going to be upset about a weekend of college football. Plus the NFL's back, like Jake said. So I'm excited. I know the fellas are excited. Let's hop right on into it.
Yep. As always, go follow us on our socials. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're getting real close to 100 followers on TikTok and Instagram. We would appreciate if you stop what you're doing right now, pause the video, go follow us. That means a lot to me and Hunter and Tyler. So, and go subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we're close on YouTube too. And please interact. Leave a comment, even if it's like a big middle finger. It's better than nothing being down there. We like to conversate, but we can take the heat. No problems at all. So please interact with us. We're trying to grow it slowly but surely. With that being said, it's time for a 1st and 10.
Yep, 1st and 10 is back. And this week, after all the dust has settled from week 1, I want to know, this is kind of a segue going into our preview for this week. What are you guys most excited to see? Is it a player? Is it a team looking to bounce back or continue their performance from week 1? Is it a defensive or offensive unit as a whole? So I'll go first. Me personally, I know we talked about in the recap about the ACC, the fact that they had a great weekend last weekend with Miami beating Notre Dame, Florida State shocks Alabama. Clemson comes down to earth a little bit. Tech wins on the road against Colorado. And I think we kind of talked about, I know I made this point that Tier 1 has kind of merged with Tier 2, and the ACC has all of a sudden became wide open, if you will. And I'm very excited to see 2 teams, SMU, who was a playoff team last year, Kevin Jennings, X-Factor guy over there, playing at home against Baylor, and Duke, another team that is playing a ranked opponent at home. And they rolled last week with Darren Mensa's first game. I think he threw for 300 plus, several tuds. So 2 teams that I think can emerge in the ACC as contenders. They can bring themselves to that Tier 1 and Tier 2 talk like we've talked about with the other teams. So Duke beating Illinois. Illinois is a top 25 team. Both of these teams are ranked very high in returning production this year. Brett Bielema, Luke Altmaier, a duo that's been around for a few years now. Illinois is a good football team. So excited to see what that game entails, and also SMU Baylor. Baylor's coming off of a loss against Auburn at home in their home opener, and now they got to get up for this SMU game. It's a massive game for Baylor. They need to win this game. 0-2 start's not going to be helpful in a Big 12 league where each week you can get beat. So excited to see the ACC, and if there's 2 new teams, 1 new team emerge as another contender in the ACC. Tyler, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, so for me, I've got a game specifically circled as one that I'm intrigued to watch. So James Madison is going to go to Louisville and play Miller Moss in the Cards. I think that James Madison is, they're always a winning team. They're always going to have a winning record, be a good football team. But I think this year specifically, they're with the G5 is kind of wide open for that playoff spot without having the dominance of Boise State and Ashton Genty. So I think that James Madison can compete for that spot, and I'm excited to see how they look this week against Louisville. Louisville's coming off of a game where they kind of cruised to a win against Eastern Kentucky. Shout out the Colonels. I've been to one of their games on the sideline. It was a lot of fun. But anyways, back to Louisville. I'm excited to see how this game plays out. I believe Louisville's favored by 13.5. I think that it could be close. However, I think that Louisville does get the win, but I want to see how James Madison plays in that game, in a big game where they might be playing a team that could be comparable to Louisville if they can get to the playoffs. So, just kind of excited to watch them play and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. And excited. Just the G5 as a whole. Obviously, Boise State was one of the top teams that people were talking about. They get beat last week against USF. USF now travels to Florida. JMU, a team that can make a statement this weekend. UNLV, Dan Mullen. Not the ideal start in the first 2 weeks of the season, but he's got a big one this week against UCLA. So the G5 as a whole, very exciting to look at moving forward. Hunter, what you got?
Yeah, Jake. So I'm not excited about an individual team or player or coach, needless to say. I'm more excited about a conference heading into this week. So on paper, it might not look like the SEC has big games, but the SEC has big games this week. So obviously they already lost to a Big Ten team, the darling of the Big Ten, Ohio State. Texas loses to them last week. We're going to talk more about Michigan versus Oklahoma, but that's a big game. SEC versus Big Ten, another Big Ten darling in Michigan. If they could go into Oklahoma and get the win, not going to be a good look for the conference. Next up, Florida takes on USF. The reason I say this is a big game, one, obviously, USF destroyed Boise State last week. 31-35-7, just utter domination, made more plays on special teams, forced turnovers. That's not a team to necessarily laugh at. But Florida on deck has got Miami, and then they got Texas in the next 2 weeks after USF. This cannot be a look-ahead game to Miami. This can't be a look-ahead game to Texas in 2 weeks. Like, they need to take this team seriously. I know Lagway, he got his in last week. Then they rested him. They needed to do that. I think that's a big game for Florida this week. On top of that, you got Ole Miss versus Kentucky. Everybody's expecting Kentucky to be bad. The SEC needs Ole Miss to win this game. They need Ole Miss to emerge like, okay, we do have like another top-end team. I don't think they just need them to win by 10. I think they need them to win by 14, 17 points. So I think that's a big game. How will Austin Simmons do? He didn't play the greatest. He had 2.5 turnovers against Georgia State, 2 picks, and then he fumbled the ball, but he recovered the ball. Not the best look. Kentucky's defense is going to be better than that. They always have a solid defense. The SEC needs Ole Miss to win this game. Ole Miss needs to win this game. It's a game they lost last year. That's a big game. Another out-of-conference game, Mississippi State versus Arizona State. Everyone wants to talk about how top to bottom the SEC is the best conference. I do agree with that. Top to bottom, yes. This is a top 2, top 5 team in the Big 12 versus a bottom 2 team in the SEC. Mississippi State, if they can even if they don't win, if they can keep this game between 3 to 4 points, even a touchdown and not like a garbage time backdoor cover, and they can keep this game close, that's big for the SEC. And if they can win, it just goes to show it's going to be a bad look for the Big 12 on top of that. So, and then we also got Vandy. They're going into Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech just lost to an SEC team. Does the SEC drop a game to the ACC again? They dropped Alabama versus Florida State. So are they going to drop another one? I know Vandy and Virginia Tech probably a little bit more even on par, so it's going to be a great game. I know South Carolina just beat Virginia Tech, but the SEC needs this one too. Like, they need to rack up the wins. With as much as they talk, they got to back it up. That's going to be a great game. And then finally, one of the more electric games everybody's looking forward to this weekend, Kansas goes to Missouri. Another Big 12 SEC game where the spread is a touchdown, the same as Mississippi State versus Arizona State. If the SEC goes 0-2 in Big 12 versus SEC, not going to be a good look. You got to win these out-of-conference games. So that's what I'm most excited for heading into week 2.
Yeah, good stuff, Hunt. I like how you just kind of drew it all out for us. SC, I mean, it's a big week for us. I know it's early. It's only week 2, but a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to. I think with that, let's preview week 2, baby.
Let's do it. So as I previously hinted at, Michigan takes on Oklahoma. They got to travel to Norman. I said this is a big game, not only for the SEC, but this is a big game for both of these programs. I'll just kind of lay a blank slate out there and then let you guys take over. But Oklahoma, obviously, Brent Venables on the hot seat entering 2025. They bring in John Mateer. They bring in Ben Arbuckle. They fill in a few different slots, like on the defense side of the ball, which has been improving every year. Bring in Jay Nott at running back, a few receivers. They get a few receivers back healthy from last season. It's a big deal. They have to win this game. If they don't win this game, they're going to struggle consistently in the SEC. I truthfully believe that. Even if it's a close game. But also, this could be a game for Michigan, right? They could prove that we didn't go anywhere. Like, we're here. And maybe Oklahoma won't struggle consistently week in and week out in the SEC if they lose this game, if Michigan proves to be that good. But this is the Bryce Underwood versus John Mateer. This is the quarterback battle. We're here. They've arrived game. This is it. Like, this is going to be like on SE or on ABC primetime game. This is going to be the they've arrived game, I think, for either team. Michigan, obviously, bringing in Justice Haynes. They lost a lot on the defense. The receiver position, still lots of question marks, but they got a freshman quarterback that is probably a transcendent talent. Walked in the door day one, is the starter. So I'm very interested to see what you guys think about this game on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think it's a huge quarterback matchup. Obviously, John Mateer has a good track record at other schools, but this is his first big-time game at home against not an SEC team, but a team that's been around for the past few years, a college football blue blood. Bryce Underwood, his first true road start. I think the most intriguing storyline to me about this one is the coaching matchup. Brent Venables, obviously a guy that's been talked about who could be on the hot seat by the end of this year if things don't go the way that he would like for them to. And Sherrone Moore, a guy who was kind of given the Michigan job once Harbaugh left. So I think I'm interested to see what coach outcoaches the other, what coach makes the decisions that puts his team in a position to win. I think it's going to be a close game for 4 quarters. I don't see a blowout happening, but I mean, it could. So I'm excited for the coaching matchup. One of these coaches are going to get a ton of praise at the end of this one, and that's what I'm excited the most to see. I'm going to go Oklahoma wins, low scoring, 23-19. Tyler?
Yeah, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I think that this game is very big for both of these programs. This kind of sets you up for the make or break season. I think I kind of covered that in an earlier episode in one of our previews. But I think that, if Bryce Underwood can go into Norman and win this game, it sets him up. It sets Michigan up to be a big-time serious contender in the Big Ten. And if Oklahoma can win this game at home, John Mateer, I've been so low on John Mateer. I'm not, he had a good game last week. He set some kind of record, whatever you want to say. I'm not sold on him. If he can come out and he can play well against the defense as good as Michigan's, then, I might have to give him a little bit of credit. However, kind of like one of you said this, I don't remember who. It's his first big game against a big school, really. And it's his first real test, in my opinion. And so I think this is going to be both of these quarterbacks' proving ground. I'm going to take Michigan to cover, and I have Michigan winning this game by a slight margin. I'm going to go 31-28 Michigan.
Good stuff. So last week, Oklahoma played Illinois State, Michigan played New Mexico. Bryce Underwood, for a freshman, they didn't have to open it up. He didn't hardly have to use his legs. He only carried it twice for -5, so I'm assuming there might have been a sack mixed in there or a bad scramble, whatever. But Justice Haynes, 16 carries, 159 yards, averaged dang near 10 yards carried, 3 touchdowns. He's going to be somebody to watch out for. I think this game comes down to the trenches, obviously. If my biggest question mark for Oklahoma, and I said in the SEC preview, their offensive line. You're starting true freshman at left tackle. It wasn't the best last year. Can it improve this year? You can't really tell a lot with the one data point we have versus Illinois State. Yes, John Mateer threw for 392, broke Baker Mayfield's debut record, whatever. You can throw that out the window. It does not matter in this game. Jay Knott, questionable. He literally played 1 snap against Illinois State. Will he be healthy? If he's not healthy, I don't know how I feel about this one. I think Deion Burks is the name to look out for. He's going to be John Mateer's big target out of the slot. Last week he had 88 yards and a touchdown. I'm very interested to see how this one plays out between or in the trenches. I mean, Michigan did give up 17 to New Mexico. Not necessarily ideal, I would say. They did lose a lot. They lost a lot on that, just the entire defense, not just the front, but also on the back half of that. I think Mateer's legs are the difference in this game. I think this is just one of those games where Bryce Underwood shows he's a freshman. Not to say that I don't think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be great this year, and I think he's going to grow every year, potential future Heisman Trophy winner. I think he's going to do great things at Michigan. He's going to bring them back to the top-tier level play, even if it's at the end of this year, but definitely in the years to come. But we saw it, guys. We saw Arch Manning go on his first road start to Ohio State, and he lost. We saw C.J. Carr go on the road to Miami and lose, and they struggled more so at the beginning than the end. I think that's going to be a common thing here. I think Brent Venables' defense is the X factor in this game. I think Mateer's legs on offense are the X factor. I got Oklahoma winning this game 27-21, barely covering. Not confident in that. I'm not confident that they'll cover, but I am confident that they win the game. I do have it at 27-21, Oklahoma by 6.
Good stuff. So I'm on Oklahoma. Hunt's on Oklahoma. Tyler, you got Michigan. Good stuff. It's not a clean slate. I'm excited for it. I think, like Hunter, you mentioned Bryce Underwood. I think this is a game where you see that he's a freshman. Like, that comes obvious to us. Not saying he's going to be bad, but it's kind of like the story with Julian saying last week and Arch and those big time games too. Not crazy experienced quarterbacks. They're not true freshmen, but like, is Sharon Moore, does he put Bryce Underwood in a position to win? Do they establish the run? Not expect him to go into Norman and throw the ball 40 times a game, because I think if that's the case, or throw the ball 40 times, I think if he throws the ball 30 to 40 times a game, I don't know why I keep saying a game. If he throws the ball 30 to 40 times on Saturday, I think they lose. I think they establish the run with Justice Haynes and give him layup throws, get him comfortable, because Oklahoma's got a legit defense. So excited to see it.
Next up, we got the Cyhawk game. We got Iowa hitting the road to Ames, Iowa, take on the Iowa State Cyclones. Cyclones favored by 3 in this game. This is the clean, old-fashioned game where it's ground and pound. We know what Iowa is, right? Like, they're going to play good defense, going to play great special teams, going to play the field position game. And, apparently they have this quarterback that can change their offense, yet he only threw for 44 yards last week. But they did run it for 350, and they did play UAlbany. So whatever that is, somebody would like to tell me what UAlbany is. You could, express it down in the chat. Anyways, getting off topic here. I'm very interested to see how Gronkowski, for the quarterback for Iowa, plays. Are they going to let him air it out a little bit more? He didn't have to last week. That's going to be interesting for me to see. Whereas we've seen Iowa State, they've played 2 games. They obviously won the one in Dublin. And then last week, in a game that they usually keep it closer than it should be historically against the South Dakota team, they usually just get in, get out. They blew them out. Rocco Beck finally starting to show like he's almost taken a step up. This is a big game for the Big 12 as well. This is a big week for the Big 12. I'm very interested to see how this one pans out. Is Iowa State going to be able to stop the Iowa running game? Who plays the field position game better? I personally think this one comes down to the wire like it typically does every single year. But curious to see what you two guys think on it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think, like you said, Hunt Gronowski, he only threw for 47 yards last week, but they did rush for 310 yards on the ground. I think that's the key here is the key matchup of this game is the Iowa run ground game against the Iowa State defense. If they can, I think that's the focus is running the football, especially going on the road. Iowa's owned this rivalry in the past. I like what Iowa State. I didn't watch their game last week. Way many other games to watch, obviously, but week 0 we watched them against Kansas State. Rocco Beck's one of those guys that willing to run the ball, willing to put his body on the line, can make throws when he needs to. I like what they do. They have 3 tight ends that are all over 6'5", I think, and they have a package where all 3 of them are in the game at once at receiver. So I think that low scoring. I've gone back and forth on this one, but I'm going to go with the trend that Tyler always reminds us of. History tends to repeat itself. I got Iowa in this one, 13-10.
Yeah, I like what you said about how it's going to be the Iowa run game versus the Iowa State defense. I don't think the Iowa State has been able to kind of necessarily build that defense up more than what it was last year. I don't think they're that much improved. And a game that I'm going back to is going to be the Big 12 title game when Scatterboo had a huge game against them. I think that, again, history may tend to repeat itself here. I think Iowa's going to be able to control the game. They're going to be able to hold the ball and run that clock and keep the ball out of Rocco Beck's hands. They're going to play the field position game. They're going to play Iowa football. That's just that's their identity. That's how they function, and it works. They're always a solid team doing that. I have Iowa winning this game, pulling off the upset. I'm going to go with a low score of 21-17.
Good stuff. You picked Iowa State, right, Tyler? And Jake picked Iowa. No, you both picked
Iowa.
All right, y'all both picked Iowa. Well,
I'm actually. Am I allowed to switch? Because I think
you're allowed to switch.
I'm gonna go all in on Iowa State, and this is another statement game after they beat Kansas State, and they're gonna emerge. I can just see it now as the Big 12, one of those teams up there with Utah. So I'm gonna go Iowa State here. I'm gonna flip. I think Iowa covers in a close one, 16-14 Iowa State. Hunter, you get to break the tie.
I was just honestly going to have somebody call it in the air. Do the honors. If it lands on
I was waiting.
No. Hang on. If it lands on what you said, we'll go with Iowa State. And it doesn't land on head. If you called heads, if it doesn't land on heads, it lands on tails. I'll go with Iowa.
All right.
Heads. It's tails. Rolling with the Hawkeyes here. I'll go with a whopping score of 20-16. Iowa wins.
Good stuff.
Now, the exact opposite of a low-scoring, just in the trenches game. This game has potential to be absolutely electric. We got Jalen Daniels, who has a 2-game sample size, has stayed healthy, and that Kansas offense looks humming. Now, they have played Fresno State and then something called Wagner, but he has looked like a quote-unquote Heisman front runner, like just through 2 weeks. Like, I'm not saying he's winning the Heisman, he's going to be in New York, but like he's playing like he could be that just game changer. On the other hand, we got Mizzou. Bo Pribula, however you pronounce his last name. It's not my job to name these kids, just my job to mispronounce their names. But anyways, he's the starting quarterback. Sam Horn goes down, the first plays in. So there's no more quarterback battle. It is Bo lining up for the Tigers. And our generation doesn't really understand this because Kansas and Missouri, ever since 2012, and Missouri left the Big 12, they no longer really played each other. This is a deep-rooted rivalry. I don't know if you'll see it in the field, but you'll definitely see it in the stands. I'm very interested to see how can Kansas carry on that momentum. Can they keep playing great offense against such a step up in competition? And can Mizzou in the trenches be enough to stop Jalen Daniels? Can they have that? Okay, we're just as good as some of these other big boys in the SEC. We're going to be one of those teams that's going to be a thorn in these teams' side. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. Mizzou is favored by 6.5 at home. What are your guys' thoughts on this one?
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be fun to see if Kansas continues the trend of just electric offense. For me, I think, which I'm on the opposite end of this take that I'm about to say, but I think it's a Missouri identity game, a new look offense. They haven't first year in a few years without Schrader, without Brady Cook, without Luther Burden, Bo Pribula. He's the guy now. I think this is their game to like establish their identity and say, hey, this is what we're going to be as a football team or on offense, especially. Whether that's running the football more, whether that's throwing the ball, whether it's more of a balanced attack, whether that's putting up a ton of points each week and relying on not having to rely on our defense as much. So excited to see what Drinkwitz comes up with this Saturday against Kansas. But also, I think this is Jalen Daniels' year in the Big 12 and Lance Leipold. I think they need this a statement game, especially with just how wide open the Big 12 is. I got Kansas winning this one in the best game of the week. I'm going to go 45-38 Kansas in a shootout.
Yeah, I like that. I think Missouri is doing a little bit of soul searching as well, trying to kind of establish what they're going to be without Sam Horn. I think Sam Horn was going to be the quarterback and win that battle. I think he pretty much had it won, even though it was still a QB battle, whatever you want to call it. Kansas has a ton of momentum coming to this game. They've been hot. They've been coming out and scoring points. I think they're going to continue this in a good old-fashioned, Kansas-Missouri rivalry way, and I think that they're pissed off at each other, even though they haven't played in so long. And I think they're both going to be geared up and ready to go. I also think this game will be a shootout. I have Kansas winning on a time-expiring field goal, so give me the Jayhawks 41-38.
I'm going to break the trend here, fellas. I'm going to take Mizzou in this game. I think it just comes down to depth. Kansas hasn't really had to show the depth. I think Missouri's got a little bit more depth on their roster. They can recruit a little bit better. Whereas Kansas, man, like an injury or two, or just, they start needing to tap out and get substituted in. I just don't think they're 2 or 3 deep are going to be as good as Mizzou's, especially in the trenches here. I think Jalen Daniels going to have a great game. I do think Bo Pribula, as the game went on against Central Arkansas, started to get a feel for everything. And, this is what they brought him in here for, right? This is why he left Penn State in the middle of a playoff run. So this is a big game. I am going to take Mizzou 31-24 in this game. So a slight cover, not the most confident in it, but I feel like Kansas is a very popular pick this week. I'm going to take the SEC in this one, 31-24. Mizzou gets it done based off the lines of scrimmage.
Good stuff.
Those were the 3 biggest games we got going on this week. Here are 4 other big hitters. So I've brought up Ole Miss, Kentucky. I brought up USF, Florida. Brought up Arizona State, Mississippi State. But one game we have not talked about a whole lot. Actually, maybe Jake did a little bit. But Illinois takes on Duke. Now, if you watched Duke, they were on last Thursday on the ACC network, and man, they were in a little bit of a dogfight against Elon, right? Like it was a little too close, and then that into the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter, they kind of pulled away there at the end and made it a little bit more ugly than the scoreboard or on the scoreboard that it probably originally indicated. I like Darian Mensah. I think he's a dog. He played great last week, I thought. My biggest concern when it comes to Duke is the linebackers and the defensive front, which Illinois, their strength is the offensive line. So I think that is the key matchup to look forward to in this game. However, I think Duke's corners and their safeties, their DBs are built different. I think they are very solid. Whereas I'm not sure how I feel about Illinois' receivers. I need to see it a little bit more. They're usually the typical Big Ten ground and pound. I think Illinois' defense is going to be pretty solid, but I like Mensa. And it's weird because Illinois is the 11th ranked team in the country. They're a top 15 team. And Duke, a team that nobody's really talking about, a sneaky 9-3 last year, struggled in week 1 against Elon, and yet they're only 3-point dogs at home. I'm going to take Duke to pull the upset in this one on the back of Darian Mensa. Just a little bit of a shocker to a little foreshadowing there to the college football world this weekend.
Good stuff, Hunt. I think it's a statement game potential for both teams. Duke, like we talked about in 1st and 10, an opportunity to emerge themselves as an ACC contender with a ranked win against the top 15 team. And then Illinois, a team that's kind of the little brother to Ohio State, to Michigan, to Penn State, to Oregon the past few years. Very experienced team. I feel like I'm cooked on this. I think Duke wins the game, but I talked about this in the playoff preview that I'm all in on Illinois. Luke Altmaier, third-year starter, very experienced team. They got depth. I'm going to go with Illinois in this one. I think they get a huge win going into moving closer to Big Ten play. I'm just not set on Duke yet. I know Darian Mensa. He's a big-time guy, played good last week, but I think they still have some identity to work on. Still need to see it play out over the next few weeks. So I'm going to go Illinois. They win pretty handedly. I'm going to go 29-16.
Yeah, I also said in the preview, I'm very high on Illinois this year. I think they have a very well put together team. Luke Altmaier is going to be one of the better players on that roster. Duke, I'm not in on Duke right now. After watching last week, I don't think that they're as put together as we might think they are. So I'm going to also go Illinois. I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means, but I think they win it pretty convincingly. I'll go 28-14.
Good stuff. So, me and Tyler on Illinois, Hunter's on Duke. I like it. We're not
Yeah,
all
I didn't give a score prediction. I guess I need to do that. What do we got here? The total's at 49. Give me Duke 27-24. I'll do that. Moving on. Ole Miss takes on Kentucky. And if you don't have eyes on this game, you need to. Because this has been a thorn in Lane Kiffin's side, not just last year, but I feel like Kentucky always just plays Lane tough. He always struggles in these, really good defensive games. Now, last year, he had a team that should have been in the playoff. There's just no other way to say it. That team should have gone 11-1, 10-2, bare minimum, and been in the playoff. And I think they could have done some damage. That was a really good team. And I'm still enamored by how he did not find a way to put that team in the playoff. They're only 10-point favorites, which I find very interesting here. People are betting on Kentucky. This line opened up at 11. It's now down to 10. Austin Simmons, like I said, 2.5 turnovers last week against Georgia State. That Kentucky defense is going to be a lot better than Georgia State. But I think Kentucky's offense is just so bad. They did not play well against a Toledo team, in my opinion. So with that being said, I'm going to roll with the Rebels, and I'll go 31-20. I think they get right close to that number. I don't know where it'll close at. I'm probably not going to bet this game, but I like Rebels 31-20.
Good stuff. This is an under game for me. I don't think there's many points scored here. Just based off the fact Kentucky's offense, they just don't have a pulse. I don't think they're very good. Struggled last week to score against Toledo at times. And then Ole Miss, this is Austin Simmons' first road start as the starter. So I think Kentucky hangs in the first 2 quarters, but Ole Miss rolls in the second half. I'll take Ole Miss 28-10.
Yeah, I've been to a game at Kroger Field as well as I know Jake has as well. It can be a hostile environment. However, I think it has to be a night game for it to be a serious contributing factor. I think that Zach Calzada and Kentucky's offense is like you said, they don't have a pulse. They're not very good. I think Ole Miss will be able to get this job done. I'm on the opposite end of Hunter. I think this game will be a blowout, and I'm going to bet on the Ole Miss spread. I think they cover easily. I've got Ole Miss winning this game 41-10.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Did you know the number, the total?
I don't.
That's pretty good. You landed right on. It's 50.5. Right on 51. I'm just interested to see. That makes the lines.
Moving on. I hinted on this game at the beginning during the 1st and 10. This is a potential look-ahead spot for Florida. Like I said, they got Miami on deck next Saturday. And then the week after that, they got Texas. So they cannot overlook this USF team. Now, I know USF played Boise, but Boise's offensive line has got to be, and their defensive line, arguably the best in the G5, like at least on paper going into the season. Might obviously didn't look that way, but I think they still played them tough. The biggest turnaround were 3 turnovers and a fake punt touchdown pass, but they got outgained on the ground. They got outgained through the air. Now Byron Brown, that guy's a dog. He's like great value brand Lenore Sellers. Like he'll run you over. He can run the football and his arm and his mechanics, I don't know. That guy might be playing tight end in the NFL, but he's an athlete, needless to say. Florida, absolute dominant win over Long Island, as they should. Lagway got his in, like I said. I think everybody's kind of riding that South Florida wave right now. After that performance, they were on live television, whereas Florida, nobody really paid attention to them versus Long Island because why would you when Clemson versus LSU's on? I think the Gators, they're going to blow them out. Or maybe not blow them out, but I think they win by 3 scores. I'm going to go 41-20 Gators. I think that Billy knows that it's one game at a time, and I think he also knows there is no room for messing up, and that they have to prove a point. That the last thing you want is losing to the G5 team in your state. So I think Lagway is going to get hit. I think it's just too much on the lines of scrimmage and at the skill positions, to be honest. Give me the Gators 41-20 over the South Florida Bulls.
Yeah, I like Florida in this spot as well. I think they just dominate in the trenches. That they just bully South Florida, and it's too much for South Florida to handle. I don't think that Byron Brown's going to be able to run around the same way he did last week against Boise State. And I think Florida needs to get this one over with quick and move on the next week because that's how their schedule is going to be this year. I got, I think the number 17.5, and my score prediction lands right on that. I got 38-21 Florida.
Yeah, I'm close to y'all, or close to you, Jake, on your score. I think Florida will just overwhelm USF and Byron Brown. He looked good last week, but again, not going to get too excited about that. I've got Florida taking this and getting it done 35-21.
Good stuff.
Good
Florida
stuff.
rolls.
Yeah, I think they win and cover. So last but not least on the week 2 slate, we got Arizona State traveling to Starkville. Now this line stinks. I mean, this line stinks like a newborn baby diaper. How in the world is Arizona State only 7-point favorites? The Big 12 champion from last year with a returning quarterback, returning receiver. Only a touchdown favorite over Mississippi State, who won, 3 games last year? 2 games last year? Got 50 dropped on them at home by Toledo last year. Now, I know they got 35 transfers, and they got the best of my Charles Huff and the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. It was good while it lasted up until halftime. With that being said, this line stinks. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this because I'm getting tempted to take Mississippi State outright in this game. Not saying I'm going to do it. Just, I need to hear y'all's thoughts before I make a prediction. So take it away, fellas.
Yeah, I think it's a little – the line itself might be a little bit – which we don't make these lines, and, I mean, I don't make these lines, but it's an overreaction to the slow start that Arizona State had last week. I don't remember their score, but it was a slow start for them. And it's a road game against an SEC opponent. Cam Scatterbo not being there. This is their first game that we're really going to see what does this team look like without him in that production. I think that Arizona State wins, and I think that there's potential for a late Mississippi State cover. I'm going to go with Arizona. The spread right now is what, 6.5, 7? Yeah, so I think it lands on a touchdown. I think Mississippi State gets a garbage time touchdown. Arizona State wins 31-24.
Yeah, I think that this game is being judged as a little too close. Also, I think that Arizona State they will get the job taken care of here. I've got them winning this game by probably 2 scores. I'm going to go 35-21 again here. I just think that Mississippi State doesn't have the talent, and I think that Sam Leavitt is just he'll be able to throw the ball. So I've got Arizona State winning and covering as well.
Gosh, I really want to take Mississippi State, guys. I want to do it, but I'm not going to. And here's why. Kenny Dillingham's been here before. He's played in the Big 12 championship. He's won. He was dang close in the Peach Bowl against Texas. As much as I want to take Mississippi State, I think this game's close. I think Mississippi State covers, and I don't know if it'll be a garbage time touchdown. I got them similar to Jake's score, but I got 31-27 Arizona State. They've been there before. They know how to win these games. It might be ugly. And as much as I want to take the Bulldogs, I can't do it. So I'm going to take the proven staff and the proven quarterback. So give me Sun Devils 31-27 over Mississippi State.
Good deal.
All right. Well, here's the lockbox this week, and I was joking with Jake earlier when we were making these slides. It's more like the lean box because I'm not exactly sure how confident I am in some of these picks this week. We were going over the slate, and I was like, I could see either one. I'm not betting that game. Not betting that one. But here are a few that I do feel confident on. I'll just run through mine real fast. I think Michigan and Oklahoma go over. This is 2 defenses that are really good. I think the under's a popular play here. It started out at 46.5. It's already gotten down 1.5 points. I'm going to keep watching it go down. Maybe it'll go in my favor here. I don't know. I think there's going to be times where that Oklahoma defense struggles and Bryce Young and Justice Haynes show out and maybe score a few more points than maybe expected. And same goes for the inexperience and the newness of that Michigan defense. I think John Mateer, he's going to have times where he's going to make plays with Deion Burks or Jay Knott. Now, something I did not touch up on in this game, but like there is a scenario where Michigan blows out Oklahoma. Just want to throw that out there. But I don't think that's the case. I do like this game going over. We all kind of talked about it a little bit in the preview for Iowa versus Iowa State. This is a slobber knocker game. This is a ground and pound, run the ball, not lots of deep shots. Hey, if we go 3 and out, that's fine. We'll just get better field position on the next punt because we trust our defense and play the field position games. We can settle for 3 here. It's going to be one of those games. I like the under 41.5 in Iowa versus Iowa State. And I'm going to keep riding that Tulane Green Wave, baby. They beat the tar out of Northwestern. I think it was 24-3 or 24-10. Northwestern might have scored late. But, some people might not say that, that's not beating the tar out of somebody. But if you would have watched that game, Tulane handled that one very easily. And they travel on the road to South Alabama, who I think is going to be okay in the Sun Belt, but losing a lot on offense to the transfer portal, whereas Tulane, they're just in it. I'm going to keep riding the wave literally until it crashes. And I was so, like I said, there are a lot of games on here that I just wasn't too confident in as far as, actually putting my hard-earned money on. But there is an NFL game tomorrow night from the time we're filming this on Wednesday night. Eagles versus Cowboys. Give me a Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. The tush push. They had the big hearing about it and everything. It's going to come into play on Thursday night in Philadelphia, and I think Jalen Hurts finds his way into the end zone off a tush push, maybe even a scramble. Who knows? But I like that play a lot. No, it's a little juiced to -165, but whatever. And then finally, last but not least, my precious, precious Rainbow Warriors. They're back at home on the island. They did their job against Stanford 2 weeks ago in week 0. Alejandra, that guy's a dog. He's a glue guy. With that being said, Hawaii has no business being favored by a touchdown over anybody. Like, they're not a good football team. And I get that they're at home, but they're playing Sam Houston. And I don't know if you guys are degens like, me and Jake Stinchcomb here, who actually had the Sam Houston versus UNLV game on last week, but that was bad. Like, they might be the worst team in the FBS, quite frankly. So they don't have a bye before they have to travel from Texas to Hawaii. That's number one. Number two, Hawaii's at home, just in general. Hawaii on the island's a wagon. And number three, they have no business being favored by a touchdown over anybody. So I'm going to ride that rainbow right there. And I'm going to take the Warriors, the Rainbow Warriors, covered by a touchdown on Saturday night at midnight. We get Hawaii on the island at midnight. Gosh, we're back.
Good stuff, Hunter. I'm excited to see Hawaii absolutely smother Sam Houston at home. Sam Houston's the worst team, not just in football, but might be in college sports. They are terrible. My picks, rapid fire here. Illinois money line. I'm not shying away from the fact that Darren Mensah is a guy and the fact that I have Illinois preseason in my college football playoff. This is that game for them. They need it. Give me Illinois to win on Saturday. Kentucky, Ole Miss. I talked about this just a few minutes ago. I think it's an under game. Austin Simmons, I think the Rebs start out slow with it being Austin Simmons' first road start, and I don't think Kentucky's able to score. I think Ole Miss just makes their life miserable on Saturday. In Lexington, Iowa plus 3.5, low total, rivalry game. If Iowa wins, it's by a field goal. If Iowa loses, it's by a field goal. Give me 3 in the hook on Saturday for Iowa going up against Matt Campbell and Iowa State. West Virginia travels to Ohio. Total set at 59.5. I'm going over here. Last Thursday night, Rutgers hosted Ohio. Parker Navarro, he is one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the country. They were able to score with ease at Rutgers. They scored 31 points. And I think this is a shootout game here where there's potential that both teams could score 50. I think flies over, so I'm taking the over in this game. Kansas, another rivalry game, traveling to Missouri. I think they keep it. I got it at 7.5. A little juiced at -130. I think Jalen Daniels is that guy, and I think they're able to keep it within one score. And another game that I think we're going to see a lot of points in. So those are my best bets of the week.
Before you go, Tyler, can I interest anybody in a little teaser with the Iowa spread and the under in that game? Just throwing that out there.
It's a good one.
So I'm going to go rapid fire here. I think I touched on this earlier. I think Ole Miss rolls in Kentucky. I've got them winning by at least 10 or more. Louisville is going to play James Madison. I think it'll be a decent game, but I do think Louisville runs away with it. I've got them winning that game by 14 or more. This is where when Hunter said it might be the lean box, this is where I get a little dicey. I do have Baylor upsetting SMU. I think that they can win this game just simply because I don't think SMU is as good as they're receiving credit for. So I do have Baylor covering there and winning that game. Texas, they're pissed off. They're going to hang 50 on San Jose State, and I don't know if San Jose State will score a single point. So I do have them covering the 36.5 there. And NC State is going to host Virginia. Struggled last week against I think a pretty good Eastern Carolina team, a team that always hangs in there in games. But I think that NC State's able to bounce back and continue in the win column. I think that they win the game against Virginia. Not going to touch the spread there. I'm hitting the money line. So I think that they get the job done there. Those are my best bets. But again, that Baylor game makes it my lean box and not a lock box.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all three can say that pretty confidently here. So we did hit our 3-leg parlay last week, guys. We had Utah money line, Georgia Tech money line, South Carolina money line. Huge, great. We start out on the right foot. It's only plus 200, so you do double your money. But we went for a little bit bigger odds this week, and you know what they say. Actually, I don't know what they say, but don't get too greedy. So we'll see how this one pans out. But we rolled with Texas minus 36.5, like Tyler just hit on. I think Texas, they're going to they got to score points this week, right? After how I saw San Jose State play against an FCS opponent, I'm not too sure this one's kept within that number. We already mentioned Hawaii on the island. We bought down a few points on that one. And then we like Memphis this week by 2 touchdowns over Georgia State.
Going for glory.
That's right. Our Saturday Shockers. This is the underdog that we like to win the game outright. Not a lot of good options on the board, just to be quite frank. There are a few honorable mentions I want to throw out there. Mississippi State over Arizona State. Ohio over West Virginia was one that I was dang close to putting on here, but didn't quite pull the trigger on it. And then last, UNLV over UCLA in Vegas. I think that game's going to be fun. That's going to be a great 11 o'clock game leading into the Hawaii game at night. However, I ended up rolling with my dog. I talked about it in the ACC preview. I said this is going to be the surprise team, the team that nobody's talking about. And I know they looked very questionable that first 2.5 quarters against Elon. They pulled away at the end. I think Darian Mintz is the real deal. I'm going to believe in Manny Diaz defense, especially the secondary. I think Duke gets the job done. I like them outright on the money line, plus 135.
Good stuff, Hunt. I got Kansas. I think this is my third time talking about it. I just think it's their year. It's the Jalen Daniels year. They need it. They need a statement win to be like, hey, Big 12, we're going to be in contention all year. I don't think Mizzou has an identity established yet. New look Mizzou. I don't think it's there yet, and I think that they win. Kansas wins in a shootout on Saturday.
Yeah, that would be huge for my over 6.5 wins ticket I got on the Jayhawks this year.
Yeah, so I've kind of mentioned this to Hunter and Jake a couple of times. I'm very high on Western Kentucky. I think they have a very prolific offense, and on Saturday night, they're going to go into Toledo and play one of the best teams in the MAC. I think that they have the capability of pulling this game off. It's going to be a case of can they stop Toledo? I think that this game will be a shootout. But out of all the games this week, this is the one that I feel could be a shocker. It might not come as a shock to many people just because it's Group of 5 football. So nobody really pays attention to it. But I think Western Kentucky has the potential to pull off a win at Toledo. I was pretty shocked that it was at plus 225. I thought it would be a lot closer than that. In fact, I honestly thought it would be closer to dead even. But, Vegas sees it differently. So that's who I've got. I've got the Hilltoppers pulling off the upset.
I might ride that 6.5 point spread with you, Tyler. I might be on that one with you. But folks, that'll do it for this episode of Podcast 129. Don't forget to go follow us on the social medias. And always remember, there's bigger things out there than football. God first and God bless. Jake, you take it away, brother.
Yep, we appreciate you guys tuning in tonight to our Week 2 preview. We are officially back, all the way back. We got NFL, we got college football this weekend. You can find this episode on YouTube. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. Share our stuff with a friend. We appreciate you guys. It's Podcast 129's Week 2 preview.